All right, welcome to everyone joining. We will start in about 3 minutes. If you're on the West Coast, thank you for waking up early. If you're on the East Coast, it's probably around lunchtime, so.
Super glad to have everyone here today. Happy Sunday.
Where's everyone coming from? You can feel free to leave it in the chat. I know we've got people from pretty much every state, I think, that are.
Arizona, huh?
Arizona, nice. I was there 2 weeks ago. Fun place.
Oh, Columbia.
South Carolina, nice.
Carolina. Virginia. Oh my God.
That's right. Yeah, congratulations on that. That was
Awesome.
big news, yeah. Louisiana has lasers as well.
Yeah.
Washington, Arkansas, Texas, there we go. NorCal.
Hey, good
Virginia.
morning, everybody. Hi, Dr. Deom. This is Audrey Baker over from Lumenis.
Hey, good morning, Audrey.
Good morning. This is so exciting. I'm going to be responsible for the chat function.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
All over the place. Texas, Boston.
That's awesome, yeah.
You know, so funny. I think Texas is actually our biggest location in our group, actually. It's Texas and California.
California, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we'll start in about 1 minute. We'll let some more people funnel in. Pittsburgh, New York, Vancouver, nice. Hi to our fellow Canadians. I like how Tennessee uses y'all. That's very fitting. Welcome. All right, great. It is 9 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Make sure that we stay on time here. I want to welcome everyone. If you're new here, especially a warm welcome to you. I know most of you are familiar with ODsonFinance. Most of you have been on these CE lectures, so we're happy to have you. Thankful that you woke up early on your Sunday to join us for a couple hours today. So let's go ahead and just go through a few quick announcements, and then I'm going to pass the mic over to Lumenis. They're going to do a little promo, and then we're going to jump right into Dr. Deom's lecture. So first announcement, OD Clinicals. You've probably heard about it. We've announced it on the group. We've announced it on the website. We've shot emails about it, but it has been a fantastic resource. I think we've got about 3,000 or 4,000 optometrists using it right now on a daily basis. And it is a clinical tool that is supposed to help you out with everything when you're in the exam room. So make sure to check it out. Scan that QR code right there. And one thing that we have added in the last couple of weeks is billing and coding. And so we have EM exam codes, we have CPT procedure codes, and then the ICD-10 commonly used ocular disease codes. So take a look at that. I have a couple of screenshots here just kind of show you what it looks like. So this is for your 9.2s and your 9.9s. This is for CPT, so whether it be refraction, contact lenses, keratoconus, or color vision. And then this is just kind of a small list of the ICD-10s. Obviously, when you go on there, there's a lot more. But yeah, just an easy resource. You can put it on a separate tab on your computer screen in your exam room, or you can put it on your phone. Easy to access, mobile friendly. So definitely take a look. And once again, just a free resource to help our OD community out. And if you need to refinance your loans, once again, we've got something awesome going on. There's the double bonus loophole. So AOA members, you get the $1,000 cash back from us plus our discount, and then you get the AOA's extra 0.25%. So if you're looking to refinance your loans, scan that QR code right there and go through Splash, which will take you through Laurel Road, and you're going to get one of the greatest rates ever. So take advantage before that starts to go up. And our last announcement is we have another VSP lecture coming up. So I know the last one we had, I think we had over 2,000 people attend it. It was great. Everyone was super engaged, and it was both very informational and very controversial as well. So the sequel is supposed to be even better. Will's going to be doing 2 hours. He's going to build upon what he did in the previous lecture. So make sure to sign up for that so you can scan that QR code right there. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Stacy Winter, and she is going to be talking about Lumenis IPL for the next few minutes. So Stacy, feel free to just share your screen over mine.
Very good. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you here today. My name is Stacy Winter, and I'm the Vice President of Sales with Lumenis Vision, the creator of OptiLight. So if you're not familiar with Lumenis or with OptiLight, I wanted to give you a quick overview of who we are within the eye care space. We originally came to market in 1970, creating the photocoagulator used in ophthalmology. We also invented SLT and YAG. Congratulations to the laser states. So we're really excited to partner with you in that. We did invent IPL in 1993. That came through our aesthetics division. And most recently in 2021, we launched OptiLight, which is the first and only IPL that's approved by the FDA for the treatment of dry eye disease. Now, why does that matter? Why dry eye disease and why within eye care? It's because we know that there's 49 million Americans that are suffering with dry eye disease. This represents your largest patient population, with between 40 and 45% of your patients coming through your practice experiencing this condition. And perhaps the word that's important there is through, because we know patients are visiting more than 3 practices before they find someone that's effectively treating their condition. They're frustrated. And we know that they're spending over $1,300 out of pocket looking for relief. That's out of pocket cost due to pharmacy prescriptions and also over-the-counter remedies looking for relief. But we know that they're not finding relief. It's temporary. And the reason for that is dry eye disease is a chronic and progressive condition. It's multifactorial. And because of that, it requires a multifactorial approach. And IPL provides just that. It addresses the inflammation, it kills Demodex, it restores meibomian gland morphology, it increases tear breakup time, and it helps to boost collagen as well. So it treats all aspects that can be contributing to your dry eye condition. So patients love it for the relief that they've been seeking, getting to that root cause. But what's great for you as a practice owner too, is this represents an opportunity where your patients are previously spending $1,300 out of pocket, over-the-counter remedies. That money could be redirected to you as a practice owner to provide an in-office procedure. It's a very quick chair time. It represents a new revenue stream to your practice. We know that reimbursements are declining, simultaneously dispensing revenues are going down, with some of those sales shifting to online. So this represents a great opportunity to provide treatment to your largest patient population who's desperately seeking those results. I wanted to spend just a moment on the Fda indication and why that's important. We are your partners in eye care. We specifically sought out to get the Fda indication for dry eye disease because based on your state and your individual scope of practice regulations, we wanted to give you the added comfort of knowing that this is a therapy that can be provided and is definitely within your scope of practice. So we've taken that extra step. Simultaneously, the FDA most notably goes with the safety and efficacy. This device has built-in dry eye protocols and settings, and that indication takes it a step further, which means we can help create patient awareness and education about dry eye disease. Without that indication, we have to talk around it. So we have just launched a new direct-to-consumer advertising campaign featuring Mandy Moore so that patients are aware of other treatment options. In your practice, we can provide patient-facing brochures. And on our new website, Treat My Dry Eye, we've had over 1 million patients seek out treatment near them. So we can drive patients to your practice. A number of different ongoing support as we partner with you in treating dry eye, whether that be access to clinical studies, support for your material. We've absolutely got you covered. And because you are a member of ODsonFinance, we're really excited about this partnership. I wanted to let you know that as it pertains to our OptiLight, we have 2 different configurations available, a base dry eye model. And if you wanted to take it a step further, if you're looking to get more into aesthetics, we have that available to you as well. So 2 different configurations, 2 different price points. So either will be great and right for your practice. Know that they are upgradable too. We are offering special partnership pricing throughout 2022. But there is added benefit in purchasing prior to March 25th, where you'll be able to take advantage of a $6,000 marketing package to help you get started in your practice, and additional savings with purchases prior to May 15th as well. So we look forward to passing along these savings to you, both at the time of sale and through some of that additional marketing support too. So really excited for this partnership. If there's anything that we can do to be of assistance, please let me know. Here's my contact information. Feel free to shoot me an email or a text and we'll have someone in contact with you right away.
Awesome. Thank you, Stacy.
Absolutely.
And if you have any questions, feel free to just leave them in the chat and the Lumenis team will answer anything that you can think of. So once again, I want to thank you so much. Obviously, this company and this product pertains a lot to this lecture that's coming up. So once again, appreciate it. And we are going to go ahead and change the screen here. All right. And so we're going to go ahead and start the COPE-approved CE portion of today's event. Remember to please complete a survey that's going to pop up afterwards when the event's done and you're signing off. You need to be present during the entirety of the hour to receive CE credit. If you're having any connectivity issues, just let us know. You can send us an email, admin@ODsonFinance.com. And CE certificates are going to be sent via email in 3 to 4 weeks after the event. So don't email us beforehand because we won't have anything for you. So just be patient, give it about 3 to 4 weeks and we'll send that out. And the last announcement, which is not on this, is we will be having our traditional $100 Amazon gift card raffle at the end of the lecture. So once Dr. Deom's done answering questions. So stay for that. One of the lucky attendees gets the $100. Isn't that great? Get an hour CE plus $100. What could be better? But otherwise, let's go ahead and jump right into this. So I'm going to introduce our speaker and then pass it over to him. So Dr. James Deom is a co-owner of a 3-location private practice in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. He enjoys practicing primary eye care and has a special interest in ocular surface disease, scleral lenses, and brain injury. In addition to eye care, Dr. Deom is an avid triathlete and real estate investor. Dr. Deom loves to practice optometry and works to advance the profession as a member of the board of directors for the Pennsylvania Optometric Association. Above all else, Dr. Deom enjoys spending time with his loving wife, who is a physical therapist, and his 3 children, Bryn, age 5, Franklin, age 3, and Miles, age 10, for 10 months. So, James, I'm going to pass it over to you. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me see if I could share my screen here. There we go. Perfect. Excellent. All right. Very good. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be with such an engaged group. I'll classify myself as a lurker on the ODs on Facebook or finance group, on the ODs on finance group. And I really do appreciate all the amazing information that's on there and all the different communication that happens there too. Am I good? Make sure everybody else's audio is, let's see. Larnie, can you turn off your microphone? Let's make sure everybody else's microphone is off. Is that better? Echoing gone?
You're good. You're good.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Excellent. So yes, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. As was mentioned, I'm a private practice owner and avid optometry enthusiast, I'll say. I've been very lucky to be very involved in the organized part of optometry since day one of optometry school. I was very proud to be an AOSA trustee and then national president, and I currently serve on the Pennsylvania Optometric Association's board of directors, as well as the Optometry Cares, AOA's foundation board of directors. And so I tell you that first because I care a lot about the profession of optometry, and I care a lot about our ability to serve our patients and working to be able to provide that care. And there's been no better story for me personally in my career than utilizing IPL in practice, in the state of Pennsylvania. And certainly we all know laws are different everywhere, but we were actually the first independent doctor of optometry practice in the state of Pennsylvania to purchase an intense pulse light unit about 3 years ago now. And we purchased our second one a little over 6 months ago, I believe. And so congratulations to all the states that are working hard to advance the scope of the profession of optometry to serve their patients better. So, you know, I think as a private practice owner and as somebody who cares a lot about the profession, you know, certainly there's a lot of different things that we can hit on here. So, of course, as a COPE approved lecture, we're going to hit on the financial disclosure. So there you can see my disclosures. And most importantly, I had, you know, in my introduction, the age of my kids, which you can see right there, because they're running around like literally 5 feet away from me. So if one of them screams or yells or comes in here, you know, it's because, you know, they're 5, 3, and 10 months, and they understand that I'm doing a presentation, but sometimes that's not good enough. So the market, you know, let's talk about the market for a quick second. And, you know, we just had a nice interview, a nice little presentation there from Stacy Winters about the market. Certainly the market is wide. The opportunity is huge. And certainly we've talked and heard a lot about dry eye over the last, we'll say 20 years in relationship to the epidemiology, the availability of different dry eye patients in our practice. But I didn't really mean that about this. I meant the market as it relates to intense pulse light. And so you will hear me talk about intense pulse light here today generically, as this is a COPE approved lecture, but there are a number of devices out there. And so, you know, there are a number of intense pulse light units out there. As you heard, intense pulse light has been around for a number of decades. And so there have been many, you know, different devices that have been used and developed over the years, but certainly, as we all know, there's one FDA approval for the indication of dry eye, which is very exciting to have as, you know, we look to engage that into our professions. And so I want to know from all of you right now, where are you as it relates to intense pulse light? Do you not, you know, are we at the level where we want to know what is it? What is that? Have I heard about it? So put this in the chat. I'd like to see where you're at. What is intense pulse light? You want to get the basics of it. You're looking to engage this here this year in 2022, or have you been lighting it up like me? Have you been lighting it up and you're just wanting to, you know, try and get a little bit more experience, maybe some tips? So I'm seeing lots of B's, D. I see own it, but want to start using it. Yes, yes. C, oh, good. Lots of people have been lighting it up. So lots of B's and C's, which is good because I think that is exactly the group that, you know, I think will gain the most from this, but certainly won't leave those A's out. And the D, somebody said D, have it, but aren't using it. And so that's like a cardinal sin. And hopefully that's changes after today, and I inspire you to pick it up and start lighting it up. So, you know, this is a patient. I just love this example. I've been using this as my first example in this slide deck, you know, as you can see, for going on 2 years now. And I have patients like this every single day. And so I had this young lady come in. She's around 28, and she is from South America. And she comes in because on the right upper lid, as you can see, she has a red elevation that's been there for about a week. And she says it was painful, it's a little tender, and it's still bothering me. And you know what? I've had this problem on my other eye before, and now it's on this eye. And I'm wondering, what is going on here? Am I contagious? Am I getting something from someone? What's going on? And so certainly we all know what this is. This is easy. We could, you know, you could just hear somebody say this to you and you would immediately know what it is. So somebody put in the chat, what do you see there, right upper lid? What do you see? And furthermore, what are you going to do? And as I'm looking at those chat results, I'm going to tell you what I would do normally or pre-IPL in my office. And so pre-IPL in my office, I would prescribe her an oral antibiotic. I would talk to her, you know, about in-office in-office thermal treatments that we have access to. I would prescribe her at-home warm compresses, maybe talk to her about oral omega-3s, maybe a topical anti-inflammatory in the form of a combination drop. Those would be my normal approach steps, if you will, to an internal hordeola, which is exactly what this patient is suffering from. And you know, my standard of care has not really changed or evolved. It's just that the way that I look at that patient, it is my approach to that patient has totally changed. And really that is true of every patient I see as a result of IPL. And so as I look at this patient, I'm going to ask you to expand your mind for a moment, hopefully think a little bit outside of the orbit, outside of the globe and the lids, and think about how that affects the eye, the orbit, the globe, the lids. And so as we look at this patient, we could see a couple things. So first we see a mask. I asked her to remove her mask and examine her entire face. And so first thing you see is her cheeks are quite red, little swollen. You might say to yourself, well, that's because she's wearing the mask. But I asked, you know, is this something you deal with on a regular basis? Do you notice that your cheeks, your nose are red? And she says, absolutely. That's been something I've been dealing with for many years, and I've never had it able to be addressed, and discussed it with my dermatologist. This is you know, something she's even tried to help me with. And I said, has the word rosacea ever been used? And she said, oh yes, I'm aware of that. Okay. Well, the other thing I see is that she's got a number of blemishes. You know, it's clear that she suffers from acne. She's got some acne scars and some pitting in her cheeks. As well, looking at her hair is kind of oily. So you can see here that she's got oily skin. She's got some blemishes, and she also has acne. Now, what is an internal hordeola, really? What is it? It's an infection of our meibomian glands, right? From bacteria that lives native on our eyelid, on our eye, around our eyelashes. We're all very familiar with that. Not a big deal. But again, looking outside of that area, thinking outside the box, how do we address this patient's concerns? And so I say to this patient now and then, I say, you know, Louise, I can see you have an infection on your eyelid, and I know that you've been dealing with this for some time. In fact, you told me you had it on your other eye. We're going to address this problem right now, but your number one problem is not what's on your eyelid. It's how to keep it from coming back. It's how to address this at the root cause. And so I explain how there's inflammation in her skin, and we can see that inflammation in the form of redness. And I say, furthermore, we can see that inflammation on your eyelids, and I can see it when I look at the slit lamp here today. And so I'm going to address your problem with an oral antibiotic, topical anti-inflammatory antibiotic drop, as well as at-home warm compresses. But I'm going to tell you about an in-office treatment that gives you the opportunity to really address this at the root cause. We now have a light. And this light is very unique. What it does is it heats up these oil glands that I'm talking about. It allows for the release of the diseased oils that have gotten blocked up, not unlike the oils that are getting blocked up on your skin, causing the acne that you've been dealing with. So it releases those oils, which is going to make your eyes healthier. But it also gets absorbed. This light gets absorbed by these swollen blood vessels in your skin, thereby reducing the size of those blood vessels and reducing the inflammation in your skin. And I said, you're going to notice a couple things. One, we're going to loosen up those oil glands. The lid should get more comfortable. You're not going to have the pain. Two, the redness should be decreased. And three, you may notice an improvement in your color, clarity, and texture of your skin. I say the skin and your eyelids are one and the same. So we're going to treat this because you have ocular surface disease, and that's what we're going to be addressing here today. But again, they're connected. They're one and the same. And so you may have some side effects that are, again, desirable. And so this is how I approach this. And so Louisa heard me. She listened to what I had to say, and immediately upon discussing it as a greater part of what she's been dealing with on her face, she said, I am in, sign me up. Didn't think twice about it. Again, you could see back, you know, this was, I'll say, just exiting the dark days of the pandemic, if you will. Again, she was really suffering, came in, and you know, we did a 4-session treatment separated by 2 to 3 weeks. Each session in my office the first one takes maybe about 20 minutes. And then each subsequent treatment takes probably around 10 minutes in the office. She's been one of my biggest cheerleaders. She works at an Amazon warehouse distribution facility in my area. She comes in religiously every 4 months or so for 1 or 2 treatments, not because she has to, but because she loves the benefits. She loves how her eyes feel, how her skin looks, and she continues to get that treatment. And she's recommended numerous other patients, to our office for this treatment. So a real success story, and again, an example of how looking outside the box can make a difference. And you can see here a picture of what her glands look like. Again, as someone who has recurring meibomian gland dysfunction, chronic stasis of the meibum, you could see what the end result of that is. And certainly, if you have this technology, it's great. Showing patients, hey, what you feel, what you see, this is what's really going on inside your lids. These glands are dying, they're atrophying, they're becoming smaller, and we don't currently have any way of really improving that overall meibum appearance, except for IPL. Yes, there's actually studies that show that the application of intense pulse light in the presence of meibomian gland dysfunction improves the morphology of the meibum acini that we're all so familiar with. So, we kind of went through this. You could think in your own head, how would you approach this? What would you normally do? And would IPL be part of your current offering to a patient like this? And so I think it's a thing to think about. And how many patients do you see on a day like this? Or in our normal day to day. And so again, this is my plan. This is how I approach it now. And it's made IPL just a really easy thing to do in our practice. And so I think for most people, because the reality is we didn't learn how to do this in school. And again, that's where being an advocate for optometry, kind of comes into play at this point. Doing talks like this, going to schools and advocating for schools to get it in their own teaching it to students, I think is very, very important. So, how do you become an expert? How do you get comfortable at it? How do you avoid, purchasing something like this and then, having it collect dust? It's becoming comfortable with it. And I think becoming comfortable with a device in your practice, again, this is me putting my financial hat on, me putting my private practice hat on, it's being prepared. It's being prepared. And so being prepared for me looks like this. We all have these patients. I could show you statistics from now until the cows come home. It doesn't matter where you're located, what your age demographic is, socioeconomic status, it doesn't matter. If there's eyeballs and eyelids, we have these patients. So for me, how I did it is we take a list of the patients that we told about this, so our history was, probably about 5 years ago, we had a group come in, some sales representatives from a company, and we were talking about investing in this product. And then ultimately we decided not to do it. We tested out in our office for 1 or 2 days. And we had a LipiFlow, we still do, a MiBaFlow, we still do, cell omega-3s, warm compresses. We said we have everything, we don't need something else. So we tried it. And again, we decided at the end of the day to turn away. Moving forward, another couple of years, I kept hearing more about IPL, and a friend of mine invested in IPL about 2 hours away. So I went and I shadowed him. And I could not believe how easy the device was to use, how efficient the flow was in the practice, how easy the conversation went with patients. I watched how he, introduced the treatment to patients, and the type of patient that was converting to me was very different than the type of patient I was able to get to convert with LipiFlow or MiBaFlow. I also was able to see some follow-ups and hear patients talk about, the success that they had with the treatment, and not only feeling benefits, and this was the big difference, seeing the benefits. That was the big difference that I wasn't able to get, with my other in-office thermal treatments. And so I said, we need to do this. And so at that point in time, I said, we need to start talking to patients every single day that are candidates for this, and start putting them on a list. So that's what we did. And so in reviewing that, looking at those patients we put on that list, and in addition, patients that we diagnosed with the ICD-10 code of rosacea, which I would encourage you to actively do in your chart. Talk to patients about it, code rosacea if you see rosacea, because that's going to be an easy patient population to look back on and determine whether they were candidates or not. I know by doing that, that converted in those early months and still does as we do review our data, as we're a large practice with 8 doctors in 3 locations, who's a candidate and who could we target with messaging. So that converts to at least 5 to 10 IPLs per week. We also believe in marketing. You know, we believe in marketing, and I think it's a smart thing to do, whether it's search engine optimization, Google ads, or even in the dinosaur age in little small town Pennsylvania, newspaper. And this is a newspaper ad that I regularly run and have run. And, you know, I've had people cut this out and bring it in. And I know in the early days of putting this out, when we first, you know, got the device, that, you know, this allowed at least for 2 conversions a week, you know, and we can convert those conversions to revenue as well. You know, external marketing, I think, is very important as well. External marketing is, you know, the example of, you know, sorry, hang on, my son's in here right now. Hold on, go ahead. You can't make that up, right? So external marketing is where we have the example of videos, right? So hang on one second. I apologize, everybody. Hang on one second. Sorry about that. All right, I'm back. So external marketing, the best example is, you know, video, in my opinion. You know, when it comes to IPL, you know, the biggest issue for people, patients in particular, understanding what exactly we're talking about is, how does light affect dry eye? How can you connect the two? And so examples with video was the most valuable, you know, for me. And then in the office, using these videos with patients that we have in the office has also been, you know, very, very helpful, very successful. So external marketing. So again, internal marketing and external marketing. I think that's really all you got to do. And now there's, you know, support from, you know, lots of different directions to help you with this, but I didn't have any of that support, you know, in the early days, you know, 3 years ago. Internal marketing, external marketing allowed us to pay off this device in 4 months. You know, again, I'm in an area socioeconomically well below the national average. And I say this to offices and doctors all the time. Your patients, if they have eyes, they'll get dry. And if you can, you know, present something to them, you know, that works and they see value in, then ultimately, you know, we're going to get some success there. You know, when it comes to dry eye, we could think about the ways that we typically approach dry eye. We have medical, you know, and that could be topically or orally or even nasally, right? You can do heat-based, right? Thermal heat-based treatments are certainly an option that we are all relatively familiar with. We understand how they work. Some may be better than others. Some may be more cost-effective than others. And we have saleables in our office. We believe in saleables. We sell omega-3s in our office, artificial tears, as well as in-office heat treatments that we can sell to patients as well. And I think giving them that support for at-home success is very valuable. Now we have this other part of the repertoire, which is light. And you know, this other idea, which, you know, for some might be a taboo word, for some maybe you can't say this in your state, for some maybe you can. And really, I don't think it matters. I do not think it matters, but it's this word of aesthetic. And the bottom line is, you know, that this light treatment has the ability to help with dry eye from a scientific perspective, and patients can see it. Call it whatever you want to call it. Call it aesthetic, call it the side effect, call it whatever you want to call it, but patients can see the benefit. And here's an example. So here's a patient I have in my office. We're going to call him Larry. because that's his name. So we got Larry here. He's a hardworking guy. He's a plumber. And, you know, I've been talking to him in my office for probably 8 years about lipoflow because he has pretty bad rosacea. You can see the pronounced rhinophyma, the telangiectasia in the cheeks, and you can just imagine the squeezing of the oil glands and that cheesy expression we get when we do that. We all know Larry, and I've been talking to Larry about treating meibomian gland dysfunction with a more robust in-office heat treatment. Larry says no every time. He says, no, I don't want to spend the money. We are doing topical, you know, immunosuppressant drops, oral anti-inflammatory in the form of an omega-3. He does at-home warm compresses, and we've pulsed doxycycline, you know, month on, month off over the years. And so I mentioned to Larry that we have this new device that helps his dry eye by addressing the inflammation at the root cause, which has a lot to do with rosacea. And you know what? I said rosacea to him probably 50 times over our relationship over the past 8 years. And nothing hit right here more than this line about light helping get rid of his rosacea and subsequently his ocular rosacea. And so he looked at me and he said, oh my God, yeah, you know what, my dermatologist mentioned something to me about this. And you know, I just didn't give it a try and I didn't really understand it. And what you just said to me really does make sense. So I'd like to do it. So here's a before and after. You can see Larry before on the left, and on the right, you could see him after. And it's plain to see how his skin is lighter in complexion, less red, more better texture. And you could just imagine what those lids look like, that they're more red, that there's less red, less inflammation, and better expression. And I think there's no better observation, you know, of the benefits of this device or a device like it than this. And so I think the elephant in the room, you know, if it works, patients understand it, it pays for itself, is, you know, well, what is it? What is it? Is it a laser? Is it a light? Is it, what kind of light? What is it? And so, you know, the bottom line is, and I think a lot of the fear with IPL was it's a laser. It's not a laser. It's nothing like a laser. IPL and laser light are totally different from a scientific standpoint. And I'm not going to go into great detail about this, but you can see here, totally different. I've heard a colleague say once before, if you could turn on a slit lamp, you can do IPL. And the answer to that is absolutely true, because it's a broad spectrum, incoherent, multi-directional light, not unlike a light bulb or a flashlight. So, you know, what are we going to do? We're going to go over a little bit about light. I'm not going to go into great detail. We're going to talk about skin, how the skin and light interact, and then how do we implement this into our practice. And then we're going to talk freely and openly about, you know, some of the financial implications. And so light, we know, is electromagnetic radiation. It has an electric and a magnetic field, and it can affect change on anything, on something. A real good example of it is obviously photosynthesis in plants, obviously a big one. So, you know, what about us? What can we do here? Well, we're using light to affect change in the skin. And here you can see a beautiful picture of a patient who just had IPL in my office. You can see the beautiful rosy cheeks. Those are not nails coming out of her eyes. Those are laser grade shields that we use when we do the treatment. So we'll actually anesthetize the eye, open the lids, put these laser grade shields on, not unlike scleral lenses. Easy application. And what this allows us to do is, with great efficiency and safety, treat the upper and lower lids. And so obviously, you know, we want to consider doing that and getting to those telangiectatic blood vessels, you know, in and around the eye. Not necessary, as we're going to see, but you can see that rosy cheek appearance. That's what we're going to see right after the treatment. So that's a normal appearance. And so, you know, what we do in intense pulse light and in reference to the treatment, we talk in wavelengths. And so when it comes to wavelengths, you know, we can get into the details of wavelengths and how that affects the skin, and ultimately how deep that goes into the skin. And I think, you know, for a longer presentation, and all these slides are going to be provided to you, you can dig down deeper into them. And for me, when I got IPL, I wanted to know the little minutiae associated with the science. of IPL. And I think you should. But we're not going to go into great detail with that right now. You know, I think the bottom line is when it comes to light and when it comes to the electromagnetic spectrum, it is widely used in healthcare. And here you can see an example for every single type of electromagnetic radiation. And visible light, one good example of visible light, which is, you know, IPL, is in seasonal affective disorder. You see the woman sitting there in front of a light, you know, affecting change on her. And there's actually a study going on right now in reference to geographic atrophy in various wavelengths of light, you know, a non-invasive way to help, you know, turn geographic atrophy around. So light has just amazing applications, but it matters, you know, what kind of light we're talking about. And so when we talk about intense pulse light, what are we doing? We're using wavelengths of light, shorter wavelengths, longer wavelengths, various wavelengths, to affect change in the skin and improve dry eye. And what we've learned, and when, you know, this was, you know, introduced and founded, you know, all those years ago, it was found that IPL in particular is absorbed by pigment and blood. And those are the areas where, you know, we could really do the most benefit. And so various wavelengths will penetrate into different levels of the skin. And so that's really the foundation for understanding how it works. And then you're going to get all these different filters with your device and be able to control what the light is going to do based on the level at which it's penetrating into the skin. And so I really like this little video here because I think it provides a nice little so what for patients. And so I'm going to just kind of narrate over the video. You can see, you know, the patient's uncomfortable with their eyes. And, you know, this is a patient who has rosacea. Mrs. Jones, do you see how this patient has rosacea? And you can see how, you know, it's red and swollen, not unlike how it is that you see the redness on your eyelid. And maybe you don't see the redness on your eyelid like I do, Mrs. Jones, but when I take you behind the slit lamp here, it's all red and swollen right where these very important oil glands are. And these are the oil glands here. And you can see how the redness is actually from these unhealthy blood vessels in your eyelid. Those unhealthy blood vessels are leaky, and they leak what we call pro-inflammatory mediators into your skin. Those pro-inflammatory mediators actually decrease the quality of those oil glands. And so we can use this really special light that's penetrated into the skin. That light is absorbed by those unhealthy blood vessels, and those unhealthy blood vessels shrink and essentially disappear from the lid tissue, thereby reducing those unhealthy pro-inflammatory mediators that are damaging your glands in the first place. And the beauty of this, Mrs. Jones, is you're going to be able to see it work just as I see it work when I press on your oil glands here in the exam room. And so, you know, we probably all learned this at one point in time, you know, that the largest organ in our bodies is in fact and everybody's probably putting it in there, the skin, right? We all know that. We all learned it. And, you know, I think we get so zoned in on the eye, and I know we all regularly let patients know that we can see hundreds of systemic health conditions when we look inside the eye, but how is it that we look at the skin of the eye, if you will? How is it that we look at the lids as a extension of the skin, thinking about the dermatological state of the patient? I would argue probably infrequently. And so as you look and review here as I chat, you know, a couple little interesting factoids about the skin. Think about the lids as an extension of the skin in your day-to-day with patients, and start to familiarize yourself with skin care, skin cleansers, lotions, unhealthy preservatives that may be present. And so I think it's helpful to kind of review the different layers of the skin we're going to be addressing. Epidermis, not unlike, you know, the epithelium of the cornea. It's avascular. Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that. And so when we get to the epidermis, really the thing that we're going to be addressing as it comes to IPL is the pigment, because that's where pigment lives. We have our melanocytes releasing melanosomes into the skin, and that is the target that we will have for IPL in the epidermis. And so as we look at our various wavelengths, the shorter wavelengths will go a shorter distance into the skin and affect change at the epidermis. And so, you know, what is something that happens at the epidermis? Acne. Acne happens at the epidermis. And we know that there's a correlation between acne and dry eye, as I've mentioned. And so, yes, a short wavelength can go a short distance into the epidermis of the skin, kill bacteria on the epidermis, and help to reduce the occurrence of acne. And it's really, you know, an amazing little thing that I could add in, talk to patients about. Again, I'm treating their dry eye, but we're going to see those benefits. What do you see here? These are these little pigmented lesions on this patient's face. These are sunspots. And so where does pigment live? It lives in the epidermis, right? And so we're going to use a shorter wavelength to be able to address that change. And what happens is a shorter wavelength going short distance into the skin, it's going to liberate the melanosomes. They start to travel anteriorly, and they actually do this thing called coffee grinding, where they literally just start to fall off of the skin. It's a pretty impressive observation. I'll talk to patients about this so that they know, you know, that this is something that can happen. Maybe we avoid certain areas of pigmentation on the face as a result. Maybe they would like to keep a freckle, or, you know, a beauty mark, if you will, or maybe, you know, it's not something that they're worried about. Again, we are treating dry eye, and certainly, you know, there's going to be pigmented areas in and around the eye that may, you know, change as a result of this. D is for dermis. And D is for dry eye. And why is that? It's because that's where the blood vessels are. That's where the vascularization is. And so we need a little bit of a longer wavelength, go a little deeper into the skin to address change at that vascular rich level. And so as you can see in that beautiful picture, you can see all those capillary loops, a more anterior and a more a deep layer of capillary tissue in the dermis. And so that's where rosacea is happening. You can see this, you know, sort of complicated diagram here showing the recruitment of pro-inflammatory mediators to the site of action, resulting in dilated blood vessels and that unhealthy appearance, in conjunction with the decrease in the quality and texture of the skin as a result of, you know, poor oil secretion or excessive oil secretion. And so you can really see it, I think, beautifully here, the so what, the before and after on the left of your screen and on the right of your screen. You could see almost like looking at blood vessels in the retina, and you can see how those blood vessels kind of just disappear from left to right. This is immediately before and after a treatment. Here's a gentleman, again, a gentleman I've talked to about in-office thermal treatments for a number of years. And when I said, you know, this is a treatment that addresses all those red spots that you see in your face, those unhealthy red spots you see in your face, I see them on your eyelid, and they're decreasing the quality of your oil glands. And so, you know, again, you know, a patient that would have normally been someone that would have, you know, maybe been a prescription for doxycycline, you know, a prescription for topical combination drop, erythromycin, warm compress, is now a patient that I'm looking at, you know, generating a revenue in my office with as well. You know, again, I'm talking from a private practice standpoint, and also, you know, again, we always start with doing what's right for the patient, treating this at the root cause, and you could see from before to after how that changes. And I just love, you know, seeing that change happen in patients. So again, a longer wavelength, going deeper level in the skin, where you see those vascular supplies there. What about hair removal? Oh my gosh, hair removal. Are we allowed to do that? I don't know. And I'm not telling you to go do it, but what I'm telling you is that IPL does have the power to do that. And ultimately, you want to know what the power of that device is. And so what about trichiasis? You might try that, and I can tell you that I have. So here's a patient that I had before and after, a recurrent entropion and a trichiasis patient, elderly gentleman. He actually had mild dementia, and it's very difficult to get him to come into the office and epilate his lashes. He actually had an entropion repair at one point in time. that failed as well. And so his wife was just fed up with him having red, goopy eyes all the time and it pulling at his eyes. And I said, let's give this a try. And I've done this on a few patients, and you could see the before and after. Some tips that I have: do not epilate the lashes, leave the lashes in. You're going to use a longer wavelength, laser grade shield on, and apply the treatment right on the lid margin. And you could see the before and after, less redness. Obviously, these were weeks after because you could see there's no lashes there. You're going to leave the lash in because you want to do the treatment, allow the energy penetrate to the base of the lash, where you're going to have ultimately the light being absorbed by the base of the lash, the vascular supply of the lash, and hopefully affect change in that lash. What about wrinkle reduction? What about stimulating collagen? Well, IPL does have the power to do that. You're going to go a little deeper into the skin to do that. Again, a patient I've had that I think it's very plain and easy to see the before and after. You could see less wrinkles, less vascular telangiectasia, less redness, and look at those lids. They're white. They don't look red. They don't look swollen. She doesn't look painful. She doesn't look like she's been in pain. And so what are we going to do? We're going to go a little deeper into the skin, to stimulate where the collagen lives. And so light could be absorbed. It could reflect. It could scatter. And so we want to understand, how that goes into the skin, how that ultimately results in what we want to do here. But, the beauty is the technology that we have allows for this to happen sort of behind the scenes. So you might say, well, how does light get in there and not cause a burn? How does light get in there and not affect change at some other level in the skin? And so that's the magic of IPL, is that the technologies in the systems allow for the light to be penetrated into the skin, absorbed by the target tissue, and not affect change in adjacent tissues, mainly, again, having the effect, the benefit, melanin, and also oxyhemoglobin in blood. And you're going to have differing effects based on, the spot sizes. And so some technologies are going to be more tailored for dry eye. Some technologies are going to be more tailored for dermatology or dermatological use or hair removal, for instance. And so I think having a device that, again, has a focus on dry is important as a result of what you see here. You could see how a larger spot size is going to penetrate differently than a smaller spot size, into the skin tissue, and ultimately have, potentially a different result. I think as you think about how you address dry eye in your office, how you approach it, engaging your staff is extremely important. And so in our office, it kind of looks like this. We're interviewing the patient. We're doing our external exam. We, of course, are doing our refraction. Big part of evaluating for dry eye is assessing vision. And I'm a big believer in vital state, fluorescein and lissamine, and looking at that with the patient, giving them the opportunity to see what's really going on, in their eyes. But the other piece that's not listed here, this external exam piece, is looking at the patient, from a holistic point of view, and seeing, what's going on in their face, maybe without makeup, or, just addressing what you see beyond the lids, and looking at the lids again as an extension of the dermatological state. And you'll see things like this if you're actually staining. And I challenge each and every one of you for the rest of this week to stain with fluorescein and lissamine, and grade the patient based on what you see. And what I mean by that is utilizing the DEWS 2 workshop protocol. And so step 1, no stain. We're basically telling the patient how we address the symptoms that come intermittently, because that's step 1. We don't see any damage on the eye. We don't see any inflammation. And so step 2 is we see inflammation, we see stain. And so you may think to yourself, well, isn't IPL like a more advanced treatment? I think a lot of people got into trouble with LipiFlow, thinking, well, this is a more advanced treatment. This is a more involved treatment. And, we're going to save that for patients that are really suffering. And that's a mistake. That's a mistake. And it says so right here, by people smarter than me in the dry eye workshop. That's not necessarily saying much, but they are smart people. And they said in step 2, staining, basically the induction of inflammation means in-office intense pulse-like treatment is indicated. So is this something that you could use in your office? Do you have a lot of patients that have stain, that have dry eye, that have meibomian gland dysfunction? I know you do. So the answer is probably yes. And I think for me, seeing that was actually, supportive of us, making the decision to do, the investment in the first place. And then step 3, step 4. So how do you get successful with it? How do you become, engaged with this on a daily basis? In the office, I think it's important for you to believe it. You have to believe it. Don't just think this is going to be your personal ATM machine. I'm going to make $1 million off of this. It's important, but you got to really believe that it works. So there's a lot of science here that I'll go through, that you'll have access to, that tells you this works. There's an evidence-based literature as well as an FDA approval. Your staff needs to believe it. I'll tell you, when we first got the device, my staff looked at me and they said, "You're not doing that to my face." Now I have several of my staff, that actually, bother me on a regular basis to do it for them, that freshen them up, if you will, and helps with their dry eye. And it's written in their patient or in their contracts that they're able to do 1 4-session treatment per year. I would encourage you to do that. And trust, that's where the trust comes from the patient, when everybody's on the same page. And so I'm going to go through real quick, just kind of breeze through the research. This is Rolando Toyos. He's the godfather of IPL, really kind of invented it. And the research, we got a ton of research from Rolando and others. It shows it works. I have a mixed patient population, lots of Dominican patients, as well as Puerto Rican population in my area. So I have a lot of patients that are darker complected. And so there's even research that shows even in darker skin populations, IPL can be effective. I have just a montage of picture patients that I've treated, Indian background, Asian background, and also Central and Southern America background. So again, I mentioned the meibomian gland dysfunction. I mentioned how the treatment can improve the morphology of meibomian glands. And I have right here just an overview, if you will, a review of the data that I just presented. We know that it heats the glands. It's a thermal treatment you can have in your office. So, we have a pretty good understanding of the benefits of thermal expression. 2, we know that it can remove telangiectasia. That's what it was initially indicated to do in rosacea, now indicated for the treatment of dry eye. We know from studies that have been done, small, but there are some studies out there that show it kills Demodex. Now, is it a permanent cure for Demodex? I would say no, but definitely a benefit there. What is the lowest level explanation of the inflammatory benefit? How does that happen in the first place, right? And so I think it's a good explanation. You want to know this. It's absorbed by cytochrome C, which is in the mitochondria, and that has anti-inflammatory pro-energy effects in the treatment. IPL reduces the osmolarity in tear film. We've seen that time and time again. There's been a number of studies done that show that there's an improvement in osmolarity. And then you don't need to really have this proven to you because you're going to see it time and time again, that there's going to be cosmetic benefits, aesthetic benefits that patients are going to tell you about. And you're not going to get that with any other in-office heat treatment. So again, do it on your staff. They're going to be, cheerleaders for you for it. I'm sure we've all heard that in reference to other treatments that we have. I have a number of, patient testimonials that I have on my website. Patients have looked at over the years now and said, hey, tell me a little bit more about this. So this is how it works for us. So we identify the patient. You're a candidate. You're interested. Great. We have some informed consent. They do the informed consent. We do a pre-treatment checklist, a post-treatment checklist. I take a picture of every single patient before and after every single treatment. Takes 2 seconds to do. I have a staff member that does it, saved on our computer, easy peasy. We do a speed questionnaire, osmolarity and inflammatory every time as well. Quick, easy, billable. And I Fitzpatrick scale them, which some of you may be familiar with, some of you may not. I wasn't familiar with it. And so what it is a way to determine the skin's pigmentation level as well as its response to light. And so there's a questionnaire that you can use, and I use on a regular basis. But I think, once you get good at this, it's something you just quick do kind of on your own. You have your patient remove all makeup. You discuss the treatment with, a thorough review of the informed consent that was signed. And you look at their skin that you're going to treat and make sure you address any, areas of pigmentation or concern. So as I said, you remove contacts, you're gonna put the shields on, and then you're gonna get the patient ready for treatment. It's easy to set up, very easy to set up. Most devices have a screen like what you see here, where you're gonna be able to pick the patient's skin type based on your skin typing, and then go ahead and do the treatment as is displayed on the device. So really easy setup. A couple different protocols that you probably heard of. One is the Toyos protocol, really easy. You're gonna go from ear to ear, tragus to tragus, doing the treatment, pulsing the energy from side to side. And this treatment takes literally 5 minutes to do. It's quick, it's easy, it's simple. This is the study that was done for FDA approval. It was the study that was done for some of the early indications for looking at the benefits for dry eye. Some of the studies I've done here, and you could see this was not done on the lids. Pretty impressive. How does that happen? Pretty impressive. We're going to talk about that in just a second. The Paramin protocol, another protocol. It's a more involved protocol. Probably takes, instead of 5 minutes, 10, 12 minutes, but easy to do and involves treating the entire face. This is the treatment protocol that I use. I feel like I get a better benefit. I've heard Dr. Paramin refer to this as the garden theory, where, why is treating the face, why is treating the chin, the forehead, helping my dry eye? And it's the explanation that if we're pulling the weeds in the garden of the eyelids and the periocular region, that's great. But what about the grass next to it? We want to treat that too, so we're not getting those weeds coming into the garden, if you will. And so that's the way that I describe it to patients, letting them know we're treating dry eye by improving, your health of your dermatological state on the face. So, it's important to look for contraindications, know them, understand them. I will tell you that overall, IPL is very safe, a very robust treatment, done appropriately. I've not run into any issues as far as, complications are concerned. A robust pre-treatment instruction, which I'm happy to share with anyone. This is just an example of what we provide. We have, I think, a very robust informed consent, which I'm happy to share, and a little post-treatment explanation for the patient, which involves talking to them about how they will treat their skin, protecting their skin from sun damage, which is very important. Here in northeastern Pennsylvania, we don't have sun, so that's pretty convenient. But we'll tell them to use some sunscreen, wear a brimmed hat over the next couple of days, and that's really pretty much the gist of it. So I know we have quite a few questions, so I am going to shut up here and see if we can answer some of these questions. So let's see, Aaron, do you want to throw me some questions?
Yeah, we've got quite a few in the Q&A. So if you want to just get started, let's go ahead and start with the first one that came up at the beginning of the lecture. I
can't hear you, Aaron.
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Nope, still.
No?
That's all right. Let me see.
Okay.
Oh, now I got you. Now I got you.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Perfect. Let's go ahead and start with the first one we got at the beginning of your lecture. Stephanie writes, I'm an associate, been working part-time at a practice, going to 4 days a week in May, so I don't have the clientele yet. I have a few patients that I'm treating for dry eyes. I'd love to bring in IPL, but have no clue how to do this financially. I'm a newish graduate, 2020.
Well, I think, the easy way is math. The easy way is math. And so, me as a practice owner want to know, when my associate presents me with something, I want to know, how is it going to pay for itself? How are you going to benefit from it? And, probably first and foremost, how's the patient going to benefit? You being the doctor. And so I want to see that you have some interest in it, So, I think having a good little presentation, I think maybe 5 slides, honestly, this is what I think you should do. I think you should put together 5 slides on, the benefits of IPL, from a patient perspective, who the correct patient is, how it's implemented in practice, and then the financial side of it. This is how many patients we need to see to be able to pay this off. In the last week, Doc, I saw, this many dry eye patients. And, if just 10% of those convert, then, this is what we could expect. And I think that that's a great way to approach it. And I'll tell you what, I'm an owner of my practice, but I have a partner. So guess what? I had to do the same thing that I'm telling you to do to my partner back when we purchased it a few years ago. And guess what? 5 years ago, when we first looked at it, I wanted to get it. My partner didn't. So I lost the battle. But that's okay, because that's how things go, and you have to look at all those things. So, and guess what? I'm happy to help you with that. Presentation, that description, because those are all really easy answers to get. What else?
Awesome. And then our next question, what's the youngest age IPL can be used on?
Yeah, so I'll give you my first. I'm going to give you my experience. My experience is that you're going to see a number of patients that you'll look at and say, boy, this is going to be something that could really benefit you from a health perspective. And so, I think, you look at the patient, you look at how they're going to respond to it. The younger the patient, I've had a little bit of, again, just looking at how responsible the kid is, about how responsive the kid is, to the treatment itself, not unlike, contact lens insertion and removal. Some kids, oh yeah, this is something that's I love it. And then you go and you start to help them open their lids and they freak out, right? So this is a treatment. I didn't mention it really per se, but it is something that you're going to want to explain how the treatment is done. And, the way I'll describe it is it feels like a rubber band snap on your face. And I joke, but it's true. It's not a massage. Some people do find it relaxing, but the majority of folks do not. So me, myself, I have treated a few 16-year-olds in and around that age. I think, from a general perspective, you're going to find probably 18 and above, being, within the realm of, I think just normal in your office. So I would say 18 and above probably is a good place to start. I think, younger, you're going to see a lot of this from, being on screens, et cetera. But I've seen a number of patients in the late teen years where we've done it, and there's been a pretty significant acne issue and dry eye issue as a result of stasis of the meibomian glands. And that's been a really helpful treatment, for that. The FDA approval, I think that's probably what your question was, is 21. Okay, so the FDA, what's in the FDA guidelines and approval there is 21. So there you have the legal answer and the real life answer.
Awesome. All right, next question. In the treatment of dry eye, are you using IPL on the cheeks too? And how does it treat the whole face for pigmented spots?
Yeah, so, let me make sure I understand the question there. So for me, when I do the treatment for dry eye, I do treat the whole face. And again, that gets to that garden theory that I discussed. And I have some videos I could show you, if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to show you those videos. Again, if you look at the vascular supply of the face, we do have connections. We have connections throughout, the entire face. And so, again, going back to the early studies done with IPL, they weren't treating the lids. They did not treat the lids. The FDA approval, they didn't treat the lids. So we have clinical results. We have a strong, robust, evidence-based data set that shows by just treating from here to here that we get benefits here. So we know that the vascular supply is connected. We know that by treating the vascular supply here, that we get benefits here. So again, that's why I treat the whole face. As far as skin spots go, you're going to see, the presence of skin spots in the areas that you're treating. And so again, it's just something you want to address. We're not really going to be targeting those areas. There are different, well, you may, it depends on you and your state and what you're looking to do. But I'm not necessarily targeting those areas. So I'm not really getting those benefits per se. Again, that's going to be a shorter wavelength, addressing the more epidermis level. That's where the pigment lives. And we're going to probably in the case of dry eye, go a little deeper to address the vascular supply in the dermis. Next question.
All right, next question. So if IPL can destroy hair follicles, is there a risk of lash damage for those that treat the lids directly?
Great question. So 2 answers to that. IPL is not a good hair removal treatment. So that's number 1. So, if you really want to get rid of hair, it's a laser that you're going to need. And even laser hair removal treatments aren't a once and done. You go several times. And so I will tell you again, IPL is not the best. It's really good, I think, at inflammation. It's really good at getting rid of reds. It's really good at heating. That's what we're looking to do. It's not the best wrinkle reduction. It's not the best. And again, it's not what we're looking to do. It's not the best wrinkle reduction, and it is not the best hair removal. So that's not what I lead with patients. I'm not going to give them false expectations about those things. So, if you do, and you will, just, in the process of learning how to do this, get an eyelash, in and around the treatment as you're doing the treatment, which I've done a number of times. It's going to just singe it a little bit. It's not going to go away. Just like skin or facial hair, you're going to have men and women alike that have peach fuzz or actual facial hair. And in doing the treatment, you're going to ask them to shave ahead of time or avoid the facial hair that they have. But in doing so, if they do have facial hair, you're going to singe that hair a little bit. But it's not going to affect change at the root of the lash and at the vascular supply at the root of the lash, which is ultimately how you get rid of the hair. Not just by singeing it on the external surface of the face, just from the heat provided by the flash of the light. So you will not get rid of lashes or facial hair or hair with your meibomian gland dysfunction, rosacea, or settings that are in and around that vascular supply in the dermis.
Awesome. And then Sarah had a question. Do you combine different depth by changing filters within one treatment for better effect?
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the things that I love about, the device that I use is that it's not a one-trick pony. LipiFlow, one-trick pony. MiboFlow, one-trick pony. Little less of a one-trick pony than LipiFlow. LipiFlow, it's 15 minutes. It's a time limit per eye, per patient every time, right? You can't tailor it or titrate it. MiboFlow, at least I could do different time lengths, right? But it's one heat. With this, I have the ability to change the depth of the skin. I have the ability to, alter my pulses, alter where I do the treatment, or do several pulses at different levels of the skin, which I absolutely do. So, I would encourage you to look at the devices as, something that, ultimately dry eye, we know presents in so many different ways, in so many different patient types. So you want to have that ability to use a functionality set that comes with the device.
All right, great. And we had a couple questions about patient demographic. Who benefits the most from it? What skin types and pigmentation limits there are for IPLs, darker skin versus fairer skin. So if you could just give an overview on that.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
Yeah, we had a few patients on patient demographics that benefit best from IPL, skin types, pigmentation limitations, darker skin versus lighter skinned.
Yeah, so, I'm just going to give my personal experience. I think your low-hanging fruit, whenever I talk to an office about, they got the device, the B's in the group, right? Or the C's, you've been lighting it up. The C's in the group that have been lighting it up, but you want to light it up some more. The low-hanging fruit is your light skin individual who has rosacea. That is your low-hanging fruit. They're going to see the benefits. They're going to feel the benefits. Low-hanging fruit, easy, easy, easy. I'd say the next category of low-hanging fruit, easy type patient to address is any patient that has, previous history of rosacea or acne or the appearance of acne still. Again, we still have, there's a connection there, unhealthy oil in the skin visible, and what we're going to be addressing at the lid level for dry eye. Again, things the patients can see and understand. Those are the low-hanging fruits. And then you're going to, as you start to do that and get more experience, again, going from novice to expert, you're going to feel more comfortable using this in different demographics, whether that be different skin pigmentation levels or different age groups even. I think myself, I've treated level 4 on the scale of Fitzpatrick's scale quite regularly, even a 5. But when you get to level 6, for instance, African-American, who has a darker skin pigmentation, for me, I'm not going to treat that patient for the risk of skin depigmentation ultimately. So there is a very low setting on my module that I use that is very safe, and I've used in 4s and 5s quite regularly.
Awesome. And a couple questions about hordeolum and chalazion. Are you treating them directly on the lesion? How do you go about that with IPL?
Yeah, absolutely. And the first patient I used for an example here tonight or today was a patient that presented with a, I think mildly acute hordeola, and we get those patients every single day. But my challenge to you is this, because I do treat right on the lid, and I will treat right on the lid. And I have different pricing, for just hordeola treatment versus, a dry eye treatment. But I will tell you that every one of those patients, my goal is to let them know that this is not just a isolated situation. This is here because we have something deeper going on, an inflammatory process in your lids as a result of something going probably on in your skin that we need to address. Okay. And we obviously could talk about, water consumption, sleep, diet, exercise, and we should. And I don't want you to think that I don't talk about those things, because I absolutely do. But my goal is to let them know, hey, we're going to treat this, we're going to get rid of that. And we do very efficiently with the use of IPL, but I'm going to address your inflammatory state and address the dry eye going on here as well.
Awesome. And then we've got a couple questions on contraindications. Before I do that, Lumenis team, you've got a couple questions on your machine in the Q&A, so if you can answer those. Also, if you have a list of states that have IPL in their scope, if you could put that in the chat. We've had about 20 people ask for that as well. And then let's see here. So can you treat over moles? Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
A question here from a friend that I'm going to,
Yeah,
Dan Scribos, what's up, brother? High five. He's in Pennsylvania. It's he asked, are we billing insurance or billing out of pocket? So I'll tell you, the way that I bill is this. I have a patient, where I do an exam. So I'm billing a low level, medical code. And then, we're evaluating the ocular surface. We are, staining. We are doing osmolarity and inflammatory, which we're billing for. And then I'm doing the treatment. So, that's how I do my billing, my exam, that's how I do it. The treatment is out of pocket. And I've never had any issues, with anybody really pushing back on that per se. Some people will say, I can't believe it. Oh, blah, blah, blah. It's fine. What I always talk to offices about is the funnel. It's believing in the funnel. You got to put patients in the funnel, because you never know which patient is going to come out of the funnel. If you don't put a patient in the funnel, you don't know who's going to come out. So again, you have dry eye, you have ocular rosacea, you have acne, you have unhealthy meibomian glands or some, secretion of oil. You're going in the funnel. You're getting a pamphlet, and I'm showing you the video. And it's up to you. I don't need to convince you. You could see it. We're going to treat you regardless, but you're going in the funnel. And at that same time, I'm going to tell you the price openly and honestly. No hiding anything.
All right, awesome. And then contraindications. So patients with previous skin cancer, we had questions about Botox and fillers, and then also moles. So if you can just go through those, if you treat.
Yeah, so previous skin cancer, I've had a number of patients with, basal cell, squamous cell, quite common, right? So, some patients you'll see where it was removed, that is a contraindication as listed. So I would say that is a contraindication as listed, in most user manuals, and relatively well established that that's a contraindication. Now, can you treat around that? Can you treat, other areas? I think, in my own experience and from talking to other doctors, that have a lot of experience with IPL, the answer is yes. Okay, so we could talk more about that offline. 2 is moles or pigmented moles. Again, you're going to want to watch pigmented moles, in particular people that have had them, since birth. Just have that discussion. A pigmented mole might lose pigmentation, might look different. So typically we're working around those things, I would say. And then there was one other one. What was the other one?
And Botox and fillers.
And Botox and fillers. So that is a listed contraindication. However, it's more in the acute phase. So I have a lot of patients that have Botox, a lot of patients that have had fillers. So again, it's a contraindication. So I was like, well, why is that? What's going on there? So essentially what it is right after. So a week to 2 weeks after treatment, we're not going to do an IPL. We want it to be settled in. We want it to have its effect. We don't want to stimulate any change right after that. So I just tell my patients, you could have had Botox or fillers, but not within 2 weeks of treatment.
And then how about any contraindications for glaucoma, tubes or trabs?
So the only contraindication there is going to be, are you successfully able to apply a shield? You don't have to apply a shield. You saw in the video that I showed you a sticker. So I have a number of patients that I don't do the shield and I don't treat the lids at all. So just be a sticker and you'd be, fine doing that. But, the only, just rubbing against that or pushing on that. But, somebody who fits scleral lenses over trabs all the time, they're usually pretty resilient from a little bit of external pressure. So, in my experience, that's not a contraindication at all.
Awesome. And then is there proof of improved meibomian gland morphology after IPL treatment?
There is.
And then how many treatments do you do for skin tightening? Do you do that first then change your filter to do MGD?
So, again, I in the state of Pennsylvania, we are, limited by our scope. And so I do, the treatment for dry eye, but have seen, as you saw in the picture, benefits as it relates to the color, texture, and appearance of the skin. And so I will tell you from my own experience that doing a deeper energy level, where the dermis, at the basal level of the dermis, where that collagen lives at a higher setting is going to be where you're going to get more of that wrinkle reduction type effect. And I think, you would absolutely need to do 4, sessions at that level to do that.
All right, great. And then let's jump into kind of the finance and practice management side of it. So Jennifer asked, how can you fit this in the middle of your day between patients? How do you do it particularly? And then Lerny and Audrey, you've got a lot of questions in the Q&A. Please answer those.
So I'll just answer the efficiency part. That's one of the beauties of this treatment. My staff, and I have to say it's partially due to my fantastic staff, but I have a scribe who's with me, and we have several technicians, each doctor. And so if I have a patient that says, hey, I'm interested in this, let's do it. There's been a number of times that I'll do it right there on the spot, as long as there's not been any issues, that would preclude the safe application of IPL. Why? Because it takes literally 10 minutes to get everything ready to go. The longest period of time really is them reviewing the informed consent and the pre-instructions and the skin typing and the speed questionnaire. So I want them to fill all that out. So that's going to be the longest time that it takes. But to actually get the ball rolling, I do it in the middle of my day. I don't really believe, myself personally, in segmenting my patients. We see a lot of emergency patients. We are a busy practice, and I don't want to cut my schedule off to any one of those sections at any point in time. And so it doesn't break up my schedule. Why? Because my staff is really good at getting it set up for me, and I just come in and do the treatment. So my staff reviews all the informed consent, what to expect, shows them the video again, and then goes ahead and gets the patient ready. Makeup off, application of the ultrasound jelly over the entire face, shields in, I come in, do the treatment, and I leave, patient is cleaned up, and I'll pop back in to just say, how you doing? This is what we're doing next, either next treatment, or maybe we'll see in 3 months if we've completed the 4 treatment protocol. So absolutely a really easy thing to get into your day. And I would encourage you to involve your staff to allow for that to be successful in your office.
All right, great. And then obviously this is ODsonFinance. So the big question is, how do we charge for this? Is it a package deal per session? Once again, insurance, does that play a factor? All of that.
Yeah, so how do we charge? Well, I think you need to look at your chair time. You need to look at your cost of the device. I think and you've probably heard this before, that there's I think the charging of it, I think on average, from what I've seen, is somewhere around, a good pair of progressive lenses. I think that's a good way to kind of look at it. It's what I've heard. It's what I've seen. I'm not telling you to charge that you yourself. You can charge whatever you want. But, looking at what your chair time is worth, and then expanding from there. For me, I would say we're somewhere right in the middle as far as that's concerned. I've done both. I've done the pay per go, and I've done the discount pay all at once. I would say in my own patient population, what I have found is that people prefer to pay as we go. I'm okay with that. I just let them know at the beginning, we're not going to see the benefits unless we complete the 4 sessions. Early on, I had a patient or two discontinue the treatment. And I found out the reason for that was I didn't give a good, thorough explanation at the beginning. I didn't provide that. So I've had, again, in 3 years, 2 people not complete the session of 4. I did, again, right after those 2 people didn't continue, look at our system as it related to, educating the patient about it first. The video is very helpful. And again, that instructions before and after the treatment. So, again, I think what the benefit is in relationship to the cost is the patients see the benefits, and ultimately that provides the stimulus for, retreatments as time goes on. For me, again, I've showed you, in my data here, we paid our first device off in 4 months. The device, for me, was a big investment in our office, a big investment. So we were wanting to make sure that we were ready to go. I think making sure you have your lists ready, a thorough patient population, you're going to get a lot of experience early on, so you feel comfortable to do it. And then, you'll feel more comfortable recommending patients through. So we paid off that device in 4 months. And like I said, we have 3 locations. So I was schlepping it around to other locations. And finally I said, I'm done doing that. We're getting another one because we paid it off anyway. So we got one 6 months ago, and we paid that one off as well. So, I think I'd love to talk to you more about that, offline, whether it has to do with, I think it all starts with identifying the patient in your office, putting them in the funnel, believing in it, and then follow through with regular follow-ups, treating dry eye. You keep doing that, you're not going to have any problem, allowing for this to not only make your patients happy, pay off the device, but ultimately generate you revenue in your private practice.
Awesome. And then, just a couple of bookkeeping questions. I had quite a few people ask, what type of camera are you using for the before and after pictures?
Yeah, so we just have an old phone that hooks up right into the computer, and that's what we're doing. So it's just saved on the computer in our exam rooms. So the facial picture, it's just a phone. It's just an old iPhone. Easy.
Awesome. And then quite a few people asking for slides, and then also if you have questionnaires that they could use some templates or things like that.
Absolutely. So I'm going to put my email in the chat. Feel free to email me independently if you choose, and or through the panelists here at ODsonFinance. I'll also put my cell phone number, so feel free to text or call. I'm happy to talk or chat with you at any point in time. I love the profession, and I trust you all to give me a call anytime, during reasonable hours. I'm just kidding. And then I'm happy to share the slides with you, at any time. I'll do that through a Google Drive, and I could even do that with the panelists here also.
Awesome. Great. Well, any final words before we jump into our raffle and conclude from you, James?
No, guys, I thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hopefully see you guys at a in-person meeting at some point real soon, and we will, maybe share a beverage at a lobby bar.
Sounds good. Once again, I want to thank you, Grant. Fantastic presentation. I don't know if you realized you answered 45 questions in like 10 minutes there. So that was fantastic as well. But a lot of good info, so we really appreciate it.
Just kidding.
All right. And then let's go ahead and jump right into our raffle. Let's see who our lucky winner is. That is sending me over the winner, and it is Yu-Ting Chung. So Dr. Yu-Ting Chung, you have won $100 and you got to see a great IPL lecture. So go ahead and email us, admin@ODsonFinance, to claim your prize. And once again, I want to thank our sponsor today. This ends the CE portion of the event today. So Lumenis, thank you for coming on. I know you're very busy answering questions the whole time. Feel free to contact Stacy or Michael for that, and you can always scan that QR code. And once again, we want to thank Dr. James Deom. I know you've got 3 kids running around in the background. Thanks for taking your Sunday
And right on
giving
the
this presentation to everyone.
Yeah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
And James, if you want to check the chat, quite a few things going on in the chat. I wasn't able to take a look, but
Yeah, absolutely.
we are pretty much done. So everyone feel free to sign off. And if you have any remaining questions or concerns, you can put them in the chat, and Dr. Deom will take a look in just a minute. But thanks again, everyone. Oh, and to the people that asked about CE credit, once again, we will submit this to COPE right after, and then we'll send out your certificate in about 3 to 4 weeks. So just be on the lookout. It goes out as a massive email. And also check your spam folder. Sometimes it ends up there. So.
All right.
Perfect.
I think that's pretty much it.
And yes, we'll be uploaded to Ipl as well.
Yep.
All right, great. Norma, if you're missing an old CE, just email me and we'll get you that CE certificate for the one that you're missing. All right, great. Thank you, everyone. And we are going to go ahead and end the lecture for today. Thanks again to Lumenis, Dr. James Deom. Fantastic. Everyone have a great Sunday.
Yeah. Okay, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.